How athletics is during a renaissance under our athletic programs. We started with one simple goal. We wanted the excellence in athletics to match the academic excellence of the institution. Howard has always been about truth and service, so our athletic programs had to mirror that approach. And so we started first with the foundation. The foundation is, we have a trademark, every day we would walk into a staff meeting. We have to be who we say we are. If Howard is going to be that beacon, that shining light, if you will, then our academic performance in the classroom had to reflect that. And so that was the first piece toward this renaissance of science. Recruit the types of athletes and bring in the types of coaches who would make academics the foundation of their programs. And with that, we become incredibly successful. Just this past fall, the GPA for the entire department was a 3.23. And that was of course led by our women's programs, who led the way with a 3.46 GPA. And I want to give a little bit of shout out to our football team, because our football team had a 3.1 GPA as a team, one of the highest academic GPAs in the country. So a shout out to them as well. Women's basketball, volleyball won 6 out of 7 conference championships. Softball, we won back-to-back championships in both football and men's basketball. Right now, we're the back-to-back reigning champions in both football and men's basketball. 3-time reigning champions in track and field. And with our news program, which was started by a donation from Steph Kery, which is our golf program. Our golf program is the 2-time defending national champions, and something called the PGA Works, which is the minority golf championship across the country. Right? And the men won that championship by 59 strokes. I don't know if there's any golfers in here, but just know that's pretty good. And but we haven't left our success in the classroom or on the field of play. We also want to make sure that we're holding true to the Howard mantra of truth and service. And so our athletes, just this past fall, have committed 628 hours in community service and over 21 community visits across 7 different charities and schools. And with this excellence, or with this achievement, has come partnerships that we never even thought about when we first started in 2015. So now we have national sponsors. I remember the first day I walked into the gym, I looked up at the banners, and it said Smokey's Rib Joint. Right, it was one of our sponsors. And I think it was, I don't even know if we had Ben's Chili Bowl, but one of the Ben's Chili Bowl. We didn't have the Ben's Chili Bowl, but we did have the numbers. I said, okay, good, we have one national sponsor. Right, so I went to my assistant at the time and said, who do I talk to at McDonald's about renewing the sponsorship? They told me McDonald's hadn't paid us a cent in 5 years, and their name was still on my board. And when I went down to McDonald's and said, hey, you know what, you guys have to sign up in our gym, we obviously had some kind of relationship. The guy basically kicked me out of the McDonald's and said, you've got nothing to sell us, we're already the most successful McDonald's in DC. Okay. Well, now that McDonald's wishes to have a relationship with that university. But that being said, we've made relationships with national brands such as Jordan Brand, who we are one of only 6 schools in the country to have full Jordan Brand partners. What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means by telling you the other 5. Michigan, North Carolina, Florida, Oklahoma, and UCLA. So you don't have to know what that means to know that we're an incredible company when those 5 institutions are partnership. But we also have partnerships with companies like AT&T, Nissan, Rocket Mortgage, and Lunar Baby. And What these programs has done is brought us some financial stability, if you will, to help move the programs forward and continue to pour into our student athletes. Now, the issues that you'll be discussing today, however, are the same issues that we are now addressing every day at Allen. How do we sustain that success in this current environment? The obvious ones that we all talk about, like NIL, the transfer portal. But even beyond that, right, the idea of student athletes potentially as employees. What effect will Congress and or state laws have on the governance of the NCAA? Where does conference realignment come in? One of the things that has happened with our success recently is we have been approached by numerous conferences across the country to join them because they want to bring in our brand name. Now this brand is speaking out as loudly as it is. Right? But what does that do for our student athletes? What does that do for the future of HBCUs if Howard were to leave an HBCU conference, for example, and seeking out an alignment? And the purpose of it would be really just for them. So we have to look at these things and compare them to what is our mission and what we're trying to do as a university. Now I have just a couple more. I'm a Dartmouth grad, so I think all of you have probably seen the Dartmouth basketball team, which I'm has sued, has approached the NLRB about becoming a union. Well, what will that mean to the future of college athletics if it's now unionized? Now the lawyer in me says, hey, that might not be a bad idea. And so I want to sit on some of these conferences to hear other opinions, because the lawyer in me says, well, you know what? Why do people unionize? They unionize because they want to set certain standards of worker divisions. Okay, that's reasonable. The NCAA does that. Right? And what does it do for the employer? Well, the employer gets an opportunity to fix their costs because he knows what his costs are going into the year. I think of it as sort of like the NBA and football, where they have salary caps. There's a reason why LeBron Jordan can only make $60 million a year, because somebody is collectively bargaining that.
I'm now honored to introduce the moderator and panelists on this morning's first session addressing college athlete health and well-being. To my immediate left, our moderator is Jeremy Dubrow. Jeremy is professor of law at American University and one of the nation's foremost sports law authorities. Author of Advancing the Ball, Race, Reformation, and the Quest for Equal Coaching Opportunity in the NFL, which examines the NFL's movement toward increased equality of opportunity for coaches and front office personnel. Co-author of Sports Law and Regulation, Cases and Materials in the Business of Sport Agents, and recipient of the National Bar Association's Sports and Entertainment Law Lawyer of the Year Award. We are honored to have a stellar slate of equity and mental health advocates as panelists, experts who know what college athletes need to succeed in their current challenging landscape. To Jeremy's left is Christine Baker-Smith, a sociologist, Christine Baker-Smith, a sociologist who helps communities make decisions based on equity outcomes as the director of research at the National League of Cities. Anita Daniels, also panelist, as a past president of the Alliance of Social Workers in Sport. She is a licensed clinical social worker who specializes in behavioral health and addiction counseling. Taylor McFall, the assistant director at Vanderbilt University's Student Athlete Success Center. Throughout her career, Taylor has worked to empower college athletes by helping them realize their strengths outside of sport. And last, Jalen Williamson, an NFL Players Association Player Affairs Coordinator, also a former quarterback for Hampton University. He served as the Player Engagement Fellow for the Los Angeles Rams and the Player Engagement Department for the Washington Commanders. Now please welcome our moderator, Jeremy Dubrow.
Thank you, Julie, very much. Are you hearing me? Thank you, Julie, for that introduction. Thank you, Julie, and the entire board for hosting this important So we, on this first panel, are talking about collegiate athlete health and well-being. And I think it's fair to say that we are in a crisis moment. And it's important to exploring this moment that we have these folks on the panel with us, because it's really one of truly they are experts. I'd like to begin, if we could, and let me begin by rounding off some startling statistics on the recent NCAA student athlete well-being survey.
Is that many of them do not want to be seen going to the counseling center. And so fortunately for the athletes that I serve in North Carolina, I serve athletes that do, they have a chance to see me on off campus, so they don't have to run into anyone. And I have a lot of them that feel comfortable because I'm not on campus, and it's an opportunity for them to take advantage of the resources that are available to them in the community. And I think that's wonderful. More and more of them are seeking counseling for anxiety, depression, and stress.
Do you mentioned being off campus? So there's one dynamic is on campus or off campus. The other dynamic is whether mental health professional works with the institution or not. Question independent. Can you speak to that?
Yes, I am independent, which makes it a lot easier for the staff and for the athletes, because the staff are concerned that they may receive calls from professors, from coaches. I don't receive those calls. And so I think the athletes appreciate that, even though I am aware of who their coaches are. If anyone, I might talk to an athletic trainer, or I might talk to a physician, but I do not talk to the coaches. The coaches do not reach out to me. And so that makes the athletes feel comfortable that what they share with me, even though we say things are confidential, and they should be, but I think for them, it really is confidential, because they don't have to worry about me running into the coach on campus.
And I'm assuming, that sounds like an ideal situation for the student athletes. I'm assuming there are universities where that does make sense, where the only mental professional or psychologist that they can go to is affiliated with the university. Now, perhaps they can use their own resources to find others, but they're in the city, not looking around. What does the student athlete do in that dynamic? Are there any best practices of institutional employees, sports psychologists with respect to counseling student athletes who are playing for the teams that part of the institution that employs the sports psychology?
At Duke and North Carolina Central, the staff do reach out directly to the clinician. The athletes ask for a specific kind of skill or experience that the clinician may have. I've asked athletes that want some of those focus on spirituality. And so then they look for a clinician who offers that. The other thing is the faculty athletic representative at North Carolina Central is very committed to student well-being. And so she reaches out very often to say, Anita, I have someone who needs your help. And just knowing that they have someone that they can turn to, and they do not call me back to say, did they show up? Did you help them? They can tell the change in the athlete and other things have improved.
One more question for you. One thing that all of us who have been involved in athletics, personally, been involved in oversight in athletics, know about athletics, is people get injured. And it's one of the heartbreaking parts of it. And a lot of research suggests that the students at greatest risk of mental health challenge, mental health crisis, are student athletes who are injured. One is the consequence of the injury, how it impacts the community. And secondly, how it impacts an athlete with respect to their individual performance. And then thirdly, how it impacts them his team, and no one that participated or can you talk a little bit about that impact and how you've seen, I think, best practices with respect to counseling athletes or subjects?
What I focus on with the athlete is what their long-term goal might be. And if their goal is to return back to the team, then I work with the athletic trainer to think about ways that we can support that athlete while they're going through their recovery process, because I think that's really important. The other things that we talk about, though, is what if you can't go back, and how you feel about doing something other than being an athlete. And because, most of them, they want to play their sport. But after they've been through an injury, they do start to think differently about what is my future going to be, and should I start to focus more on my career goals versus my athletic goals. And so that's another area that we focus on when they have an injury. Some of them return, some do not, and most of the ones who do not return are okay with the fact that they've decided to transition and focus more on career long term.
I have one more question. I hope it's okay. Okay, just the thing was, you mentioned that most student athletes want to play their sport. There's also the dynamic. We certainly see it in youth sport, high school sport, where student athletes, the kids, and student athletes, really want to play the sport. It's the parents or community urging them to play the sport. And sometimes urging them to play the sport as a way to get the college, as a way to finance college. Sometimes urging them to play the sport because it makes the parents feel good. They are raises a tremendous athlete. Have you come across students who come to you because they don't want to play the sport?
Yes, and the nice thing about being an adult, I tell my athletes, the nice thing about being an adult is you get to say yes and you get to say no, even if it's your parents. Once you turn 18, you get to make those decisions. And we talk about how they're going to have a conversation with their parents. And most of them feel comfortable when they make the decision to transition from being an athlete. I just do not enjoy playing this sport anymore. And they should not be forced to do that if they're not interested in it. And I help them, sometimes have those conversations. Well, we practice, we role play. I'm your mom, tell me what you want to say. I'm going to give you a hard time, but they get through it and feel comfortable knowing that, yes, I can have this conversation and I can move on to what I want to do after.
College athletes are being punished for placing bets, while the NCAA is permitting excessive promotion of bookmakers during broadcasts. College athletes face the prospect of being solicited for match fixing or threatened by gamblers angry over losses. This next panel has a lot to do with impact if they are up to the task. To my immediate left is Doug Letterman, the moderator of this session. Doug is the editor and co-founder of Inside Higher Ed, a journalist who has won 3 National Education Reporting Awards from the Education Writers Association, and whose work has appeared in the New York Times and USA Today. Introducing our panelists, to Doug's left is Brianna Dora-Shawal, founder and CEO of Dora-Shawal Consulting LLC, who specializes in problem and responsible gambling policy. She has worked with more than 24 countries on harm prevention and has been featured in media sources, including CNBC, Forbes, ESPN, the New York Times, and the Washington Post. To Brianne's left is Tim Nevius of Nevius Law, who after 5 years as an NCAA investigator went on to form college sports practice at Winston & Strawn in New York. As co-chair of that practice, Tim helped initiate and lead Alston versus NCAA, a groundbreaking case that led to a unanimous Supreme Court victory for college athletes and changed college sports forever. He has become trusted counsel to many top athletes in college sports, advising them on NIL contracts, drug appeals, gender equity, and more. To Tim's left is Keith White, Executive Director of the National Council on Problem Gambling. Keith has worked for over 30 years on gambling issues and is widely recognized for his work to promote responsible gambling and prevent gambling addiction. To Keith's left, on the video screen, U.S. Representative for the 20th Congressional District of New York. Serving his 8th term, Representative Tonko co-chairs the Addiction, Treatment, and Recovery Caucus and is author of the Safe Bet Act, the first comprehensive legislation that would address the public health implications of sports betting. While his duties on the Hill prevent him from being with us today, he will tell us about the Safe Bet Act. Now please welcome our moderator, Doug.
Thanks, Kery. Great to be here with Drake, and especially my longtime colleague and friend, Don Liliana. And welcome to our panelists. We've got a great group here to talk about the Wild West landscape of the college sports since the Supreme Court, gambling in college sports since the Supreme Court struck down the prohibition on sports gambling in 2018, leaving a patchwork of state laws. It sounds a lot like NIL, as I was in the previous conversation. There's also been an absolute explosion of gambling promotion that is ever present during every sporting event, and tools that make it as easy as a click of a couple buttons on a cell phone to wager not just on games but on players' individual performances, and that puts a lot of young people particularly at risk. In line with the overall theme of today's conference, our session today is mostly going to focus on the impact of this situation on the athletes, but we're going to start with sort of a level up. Before we dig into that, we'll start with a few words from the video from Representative Tonko about his legislation. This is something to address the larger landscape. Take it away, video on Tonko.
Hi, I'm Paul Tonko, representative of New York's 20th Congressional District. Thank you all for your interest in what I see as a growing public health crisis involving millions of district products. As chair of the Addiction, Treatment, and Recovery Caucus in the House of Representatives, I have pushed for years to expand access to mental health and substance use care. That's why I've been so concerned about what I've seen over the past 5 years with the rapid, widespread legalization and promotion of sports betting, in particular local sports betting. Since the 2018 Supreme Court decision that allowed sports betting to become legalized in a widespread fashion, the sportsbook industry has been operating in what I call a Wild West, largely regulated environment. You can clearly see that the wall-to-wall advertisements that you see anytime you watch a sporting event or are scrolling through social media. These tactics have one clear purpose. That is to hook and retain a new generation of consumers. Instead of guilt handles, promoting tobacco, it's celebrity spokespeople and free products. These actions have consequences. Recently, more than 1 in 5 Americans said they bet on sports at least once a month, and 80% increase over the number who reported betting with the same frequency the year prior. It's estimated that some 7 million people have a gambling problem in the United States, though that number is likely to be much, much higher. I believe this concern, growing crisis demands strong action. Following months of speaking directly with constituents, advocates, and those in the recovery community, last month I unveiled a framework to my new legislation supporting affordability and fairness in every bet, or Safe Bet Act. Our new legislation takes a comprehensive public health-oriented approach of requiring states that offer sports betting to meet minimum federal standards in areas of advertising, affordability, and artificial intelligence. For advertising, the concept is simple. Advertising for this known addictive product should be limited to times and spaces when children or those vulnerable populations targeted by the industry are not likely to be in the audience. And advertising should be limited to simply brand awareness rather than inducing betting and promotion. Just like you don't see people drinking in alcohol ads, you shouldn't see celebrities teaching you their favorite parlay in sportsbook advertising. For affordability, it puts the onus on sportsbooks to not serve customers who are chasing losses. Going back to our alcohol analogy, every state in this country has a grain shop law that prohibits the sale of alcohol to visibly intoxicated individuals. We need to have that same standard of responsibility for sports. Finally, our bill will set minimum standards for the use of artificial intelligence and big data by sports teams. Currently, sportsbooks use AI to scoop up all sorts of data about their customers, including when they like to bet and who they like to bet on. They use this information to create individually targeted promos with one purpose and one purpose only: to keep you gambling and losing money on their platform at all hours of the day and of the night. My Safe Bet Act is also prohibits all proposition or cross-sell featuring college and amateur athletes, protecting our young athletes from the onslaught of harassment that they have faced from betting. To conclude, by taking a comprehensive national approach to sports betting focused on advertising, affordability, and AI, we can create a safe, less addictive product while still preserving the freedom to bet for those who wish to do so. The gambling industry has hijacked America's deep-rooted connection and love of sports to peddle a minimum addictive product. I am working to protect our players and give sports back to the American people. Thank you again for listening.